The director in the studio had asked me to do a demonstration, a live demonstration, and by default I chose a Nigerian. And the identity of the individual, we all agreed that we have to leave the viewers to be the ones to decide whether they can identify the person and if there's any resemblance. I started out doing this painting with what you call blocking. That was a placement, a compositional approach where I had to do an overall placement of the subject. In other words, I try to use the outline of the head, the neckline, and the shoulder. And then I went further to make an allegorical statement by using the green, against the white canvas, which I didn't tint. And the idea here was just to establish a Nigerian identity, which is green, white, green, which is the color of its national flag. But even though I was still going to paint over these, but that's the allegory. This gentleman, he has a white hair, and he was just playing with negative space and positive space, synonymous with a compositional approach that I chose. I went ahead with my sketches. I used a burnt umber with a mixture of linseed oil, just for fluidity, so that way I can just make the sketches. And the interesting part is, at this level, that's when you're making all the critical judgments, analysis, making sure that your placements are in their right position. Because if the drawing at this level is faulty, the overall work definitely is going to have some challenges. So that's what I did. Color to me is purely a visual experience. I try to put aside all the theories, formulas, and preconceived concepts and just basically look at color as hue, value, and intensity. By hue, I mean, what is the name of the color? Red, yellow, blue, what have you. And then value, it has to do with the lightness or darkness of the color. So when you look at it from a tonal scale, you can find out where to place it. And then, of course, intensity tells you just the strengths, saturation and purity of the color. This is how I approach, my colors. One of the interesting things for me was not just having to paint a portrait in front of the camera, with a few crew members surrounding me in the studio. It was actually the appeal of restricted time, because I was told that I have barely 2.5 hours to complete this whole exercise. And what happened was it forced me to draw all my mental, emotional, and physical resources, and invariably lay my artistic life on the line with every stroke. While I was teaching at the University of Port Harcourt, I usually have painting demonstrations where the students come around. Sometime I might have a class of 50, sometimes might be 120 and all of that. And so everyone is looking for a strategic position to see what is going on. And so I'm a little bit quite familiar with being watched while I do what I'm doing. But in this case, I have always told myself that it is a painting, it's not a life and death thing. So I'm going to enjoy myself while at the same time, give someone an opportunity to express themselves, because there are those who are critics, so they can have make their criticisms, and there are those who choose to appreciate. But the bottom line is, I'm just going to go ahead and create something that will generate discourse, generate appreciations, and generate questions, and just make art. That's what it's all about for me. Create something, and it was quite interesting. There may be quite a number of goals an artist, might seek to achieve in execution of a painting. For instance, achieving a beautiful color scheme, defining the aesthetic qualities of the scene. In this case, a portrait, I'm trying to portray a mood. I'm also looking at the character, and there's just a whole lot that comes into play, because my goal here was, within the given short space of time, to be able to capture the character of my subject in the simplest, most direct, and most immediate fashion that is possible. And at the same time, enjoy myself, because that's essentially what I try to advocate, that art must be pleasurable. For me, painting is pleasurable. I find it not only being therapeutic, but at the same time, it's something very intuitive, that the more you do it, the more you enjoy it, the more you make discoveries for yourself. So I try to paint what I see in how I've interpreted it accurately as possible, to capture the inner and outer traits of my subject. At the same time, you must also inject personality into the effort. That's why you can say, well, this is Jumah's painting, because this is how he paints, this is how he approaches even the mannerisms that comes into play. So the totality of it is what the painting experience is for me, and it was just fun. It was just fun working on this project. There are moments I squint my eyes, what it is that at such time it helps me to concentrate and to analyze, appraise what I have done and be able to evaluate, color, texture, tone, value, hues. So it's like an aperture in photography, so it helps you to control all of that. When it comes to signing my signature, it's one aspect that I enjoy a lot. And sometimes I found myself thinking which one is the best when I'm looking at the blank canvas or when I'm done with painting. They all have their own feelings. And the atmosphere in the studio was quite very interesting, and like they said, life is full of accomplishments, so sometimes it's good to reward it. And so with the members of staff and crew, the cameraman, and we just had to have a wine, and it was beautiful, looking at what we have done. And I hope you enjoyed this. It was just one of those moments, one of those experiences. Thank you for joining us.